Welcome back to TheChowTimePod. It's your host, Red. I got a video today from Manosphere Highlights Daily. Paternity fraud. It is such a problem amongst men. Research says about 1/3 of men are raising children that are not their own. And these are men that did paternity tests. Imagine if paternity test was mandatory, how many kids would turn out to not be theirs. This is interesting, and now I think this is a win. Things are starting to move for men. Laws are starting to change. It's taken a while, but it's changing slowly. Tennessee's passing a bill to help prevent paternity fraud. Please like, subscribe down below. Would really appreciate that. Let's get to that chow. It's chow time.
The state has been turning a blind eye to this by allowing people to sign blindly without any proof of DNA association to this child, which is allowing people to be guilty, or in some cases, of paternity fraud, which is a crime.
Welcome to Manosphere Highlights Daily. Shout out to Mr. Who for sending us this video topic. Good afternoon. I want to inform you about this information I've come across, and it might be a good discussion topic for your podcast. New proposed bill will protect Tennessee's parents from paternity fraud.
I love how it says Tennessee's parents from paternity fraud. We all know which parent it is that it affects. It doesn't affect women.
Opinion. Representative Antonio Parkinson's proposed bill will ensure that the actual biological father is listed on the birth certificate of the child. This is pure gold. Let's talk about it. Now it's time for us to get into this and do what we gotta do. Because we men, ain't we? We men, ain't we? Yeah.
That would prevent unmarried men from claiming a child that isn't biologically their own is making its way through the Tennessee legislature. Action News 5's Bria Bolden spoke with the local lawmaker behind this bill to find out why he believes the law is needed. Bria?
Well, Joe, House Bill 2698 passed through the Children and Family Affairs Subcommittee today but it didn't come without a challenge from the Tennessee Department of Human Services. Memphis Representative Antonio Parkinson is sponsoring the House version of this bill, and he told me today he has spoken with constituents who said they have had to foot the bill for child support even after finding out a child they originally thought was theirs was not.
He presented the magistrate with the DNA findings. The magistrate said, somebody got to take care of him, referring to the child, and it's going to be you, and gavelled him out.
This is the full story Representative Antonio Parkinson is talking about. Let's read. Recently, I was approached by a young man who told me he had been in a long-term relationship. Together, they had a son, and he signed a voluntary acknowledgement of paternity. They were not married. 5 years later, he found out the mother had been unfaithful during the time they were together. He and the child took a DNA test. The results proved that he was not the father. Subsequently, the relationship ended. The woman then sued him for child support. In juvenile court, he presented the DNA evidence to the magistrate and was basically told, and I quote, "Somebody's got to feed him and it will be you," end quote. He was ordered to pay child support and found in arrears. Eventually, his license was suspended and he was pulled over and jailed for driving on a suspended license. The key to this foolishness is exactly what the magistrate said. Somebody's got to feed him and it will be you. Stay focused, guys.
Memphis Representative Antonio Parkinson is sponsoring House Bill 2698 that would require DNA evidence proving paternity before a man signs a birth certificate for a child that may not be biologically his.
The state has been turning a blind eye to this by allowing people to sign blindly without any proof of DNA association to this child, which is allowing people to be guilty, or in some cases, of paternity fraud, which is a crime.
Paternity fraud is a crime and it should be punished. Please watch and share our video called "This is Why Women Don't Want Paternity Fraud to Be Criminalized and Paternity Testing Mandatory." In that video, we go deep into why paternity fraud is a crime and why non-biological fathers should be exempt from paying child support. And it's horrifying to hear how many fathers are actually not the biological father. Let's read. Biological parents need protection. Multiple reports state that 1/3 of the signatures on birth certificates from unmarried couples do not reflect the biological father's name.
1/3.
1/3 is based on the men that actually get a DNA test. If DNA testing is mandatory, I truly believe this number goes up. But at the same time, it could have a reverse effect because women know exactly who they give access to the punani because they are the gatekeepers of sex. 1/3 is not the biological father. Bunch of low quality gatekeepers, the foolishness.
However, the Tennessee Department of Human Services says if made into law, their department could be at risk of losing about $52 million in federal.
And there it is, guys. There it is. It's money. It's always been about money. The state loses $58 million in reimbursement from the federal government if they had paternity tests. It's a racket. It's always been a racket. This is why, when people tell me we need to be able to stand up and change laws, it's very hard. It's very hard to change these laws. Why? Because the state, the people in government make money off this. It makes it so difficult to get anything passed because they know they don't want to pass it. They really don't. Plus, women are going to fight it from tooth and nail.
Federally matched dollars.
I guess the concerns that we have is that the bill would possibly put us out of compliance with the federal regulations.
After speaking with attorneys from the U.S. Department of Human Services, Representative Parkinson says the bill would not affect the money the state receives.
Like I always say, follow the money. It's not just women that benefit from these laws. It's businesses, it's corporations, and the states themselves. Check this out.
The passing of the Omnibus Budget Reconciliation Act, or the OBRA, occurred in 1993. And according to the Office of Inspector General, and this is in 1997, that act amends the Child Support Title 4D of the Social Security Act, and it requires states to implement hospital-based programs for voluntary acknowledgement of paternity. That's where that was the game changer. That changed the birth certificate, making a difference on whether you are the father or whether you were there to sign it or not. That changed the whole game. The purpose was to facilitate at birth paternity for children of unmarried parents. Now this is code. Now we know that the child support system is a welfare recovery program. So this was all designed to get put parents on child support immediately from the birth of your child when you're unmarried. This is a design that they had set up. So the state child support agencies must make voluntary acknowledgement outreach materials available to new parents. So they had outreach that come in and talk to you, all that kind of stuff. The child support agencies must monitor birthing hospital compliance at least manually. So they gotta make sure all these hospitals that are delivering the babies are making sure they're in compliance to say, we got all these new babies. We are making sure we give them the information they need to acknowledge paternity. The Bill Clinton's bill expanded the role of the hospital staff, requiring them to provide outreach information about paternity acknowledgement. So now the hospital staff, not only do they have to deliver babies and do all that stuff that the excellent staff at hospitals and the nurses and all that, they have to do another job, and that's get parents to sign this form.
Shout out to the women that are fighting for men's rights. We don't hate women. We just despise the foolishness.
Yep.
We have to generalize when we discuss these topics. And if it doesn't apply, let it fly. This system...
You know, it's funny when I get comments from men. Oh, it's funny how you get a couple point of views from men and then you generalize for all men. I'm like, and I was like, you don't speak for me. And I'm just like, I didn't say I spoke for all the men. I spoke for the men that I speak for men that want to be, that are in these positions. Not every man agrees, and generalization doesn't mean everyone. Generalization just means a majority or a chunk of people. There's a reason why there's stereotypes. It might not be true for every person, but it's true for a good chunk of people to it to become a stereotype.
Them is crooked. They know that they will have to pay for these children if men don't pick up the slack. That's why these judges have incentives to put non-biological fathers on child support, give men in general longer prison sentences, and they are rewarded for doing so. Let's read. The Tennessee Department of Human Services, who oversees the child support program, is fighting vigorously to kill the bill. Why? Because the department fears any changes in their enforcement rules could possibly jeopardize the $52 million in funding it receives from the federal government for its child support enforcement programs. In addition, DHS could also potentially receive millions for reaching a quota of 90% acknowledged births, with yet another bonus out there for exceeding the quota. You see, that's why men struggle to get these laws to change, because there are bigger and stronger forces that make sure these laws stay in place.
Yep.
Now check this out. This House bill was introduced on February 2nd, 2022. How long it takes for a bill to become a law in the US can be all over the place. There are many factors at play, like how complicated the bill is, how much support it gets, the political mood, and what else is on the Congress's to-do list. It's like a roller coaster ride with twists and turns before it finally becomes law. Fellas, these laws are not gonna change anytime soon. That's why it's up to you to protect yourself at all times. Prevention is better than cure. We will keep an eye on this and see how it pans out.
It's only right and the moral thing to do, an ethical thing to do, to ensure that the right people's names that match their DNA is on that birth certificate. Anything other than that, you are stealing a child from a biological parent, and it's state sanctioned.
I never even thought about that part. Whew, I consider this slow wind. Yeah, it hasn't passed or anything, but it's going through the process. That's better than it ever has been for the last, 20, 30 years. So it's wonderful. Men are starting to speak up. Men are, making laws change. As much as the laws don't want to change themselves and the government doesn't want these laws to pass, men are just tired of it. Either they're going to change these laws or men are leaving, as we are in droves. Passport bros, MGTOWs. Pretty soon there won't be babies. Why? Because there's not going to be marriages. There's not going to kids. Men are just going to probably get vasectomies or just rubber up all the time, and that's it. So that's even worse when the population declines. What taxes are you getting, government? Where are all this money being spent now? Not in this country. So please subscribe down below. I'd really appreciate that, and I'll catch you guys next time. Ciao.